think we're off and running. Cool. So we have Jacob Topping here today, the man who wrote the book, quite literally, on print on demand. So welcome.
Hey, Alf, how's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. So congratulations on releasing the latest edition. This is your most complete edition, I understand.
Yeah, so Merch in the World of Print on Demand, it's had 5 revisions. This is the number 5. So originally it came out in March 2017, and then it came out again, the second version, and then the third version, and the fourth version, and this is version number 5. It just came out. Version 5 was updated on Sunday, so I think that's like March 18th, 2018.
Very cool.
And it's the longest by quite a lot. The Gumroad version right now is 365 pages.
What an accomplishment! That is amazing. I have the book. I downloaded it just 2 days ago, and it's so long that I haven't gotten through the whole thing. But I have thumbed through it, and it's super packed with tons of stuff. I can't even believe. If I had this a year ago, which I probably could have since you started in March, I just didn't know about it. I'd be much further along than I am today. So yeah, I mean, things like just the basics, getting started, are in here, and the list of how many POD platforms are there currently that you have in the book?
So there's a big list of them in chapter 4. I think there's about 35 or so there, and then there's another 10 or more that are listed in chapter 5 on marketing.
Very cool.
And I broke them up because some of them are pod marketplaces where you can actually put up your design and they'll sell on the pod.
Right, right.
More like what I call back-end pods, so that they just do the fulfillment, right?
Yeah.
So something like Printful, for example, Printful doesn't have a marketplace itself. It is not a marketplace. It is just fulfillment.
Right.
So there's a section on marketplaces, and there's also a section on just the back-end fulfillment pods. And then in chapter 4, there's a bit of a mix between the two. So I actually go through the integrations. I don't know if you got a chance to see that. I go through each step in terms of how to set up the integration, right? From like, you need to open up an account here, open an account here. They're both free. You know, you connect the two, exactly how to connect them, what you need to do. There's screenshots of like how to do things. So I don't know if you got to that part or not, but
I did see some of those. I am a Printful user. I have a offline site that I started building, one of my brands that I have on merch that was doing really well. I kind of broke them off, gave them their own brand name, and built a website. And I'm using Printful to do the print on demand for that. I just also started using Tscape.
Yeah.
To do another brand, but it's so I just kind of plugged it in and kind of fiddled with it. It hasn't sold anything. It's no marketing behind it or anything yet. It's
nice. So which marketplaces are you selling those on?
So the first one I've done, I built my own WooCommerce site using WordPress and WooCommerce. The other one I started just using the kind of free, and that's actually is probably why I stopped using it, is just because my free trial ran out over at what's that famous one, the one that everybody uses? I can't think.
Shopify.
Shopify, thank you.
Hey, interesting fact for the listeners. Shopify World Headquarters is in Ottawa. It's about 45 minutes to an hour from my house.
Ah, pretty sweet.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
I know their headquarters.
They're huge. They are a huge company, and they're owning their market right now. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's neat. Shopify has more than 500,000 businesses using the platform for their website right now, including some big companies like Tesla. You know, the car company. They run their website on Shopify.
I didn't know that. Their gear website.
They're both of them. Their gear one, the main Tesla one. You could buy cars on their Shopify site.
Ah, wow! I did not know that. That is a pretty cool tidbit there.
Yeah,
for sure. Very cool. So who did you, besides yourself, who did you write this book for?
So originally I had written it because I was doing consulting with people and I had some mismatches on the timing. So at the time I was working full time. So when I was at work, they were free. And then when I was available, they were at work. And then, there was some time at nighttime when we were both sleeping as well. So in order to try and get information to some of the people I was doing consulting for, I was sending them emails. And I wanted to make sure that none of the emails overlapped or had more information that was already covered. So I started writing it all down into a PDF. And then the deeper I got into it, I also wanted to make sure I was giving the best consulting stuff, because I'm sending it to them by email. I want to make sure it's like worth their time and it's like exactly what they're looking for, right? And so I started putting down some of the details that they were asking for and answering all the questions that they had replied back to and all that kind of thing. And as it started to go along, I mean, it started to build. It started out with like 2 or 3 pages, and then 5 pages, and then 10. And then after a while, somebody suggested I should make it into a book, because it was getting huge, right? It was like 15, 20, 25 pages, right? I said, okay, well, if I'm going to do it a book, I want to lay it out differently. I want it to be very easy to follow for people at different skill levels. So if you notice when you read through the book, it starts out super basic. Like, what is print on demand? What is this all about? Like, what does it even mean? How does it work? Like, very, very basic. And then I go beyond the basics. I get into like, you know, how would you sign up for different platforms, and also what kind of tools would you use? So there's stuff about software, how you would do things. And then as it goes on, like chapter 3 gets into more details around mobile development. So if you wanted to do designs on your mobile phone or a tablet, or on the web, or on desktop, or like any kind of different way that you would want to make your own designs, I go into that. I talk about, you know, the difference between vectors and raster images. So if people are interested in design, about scaling things or using them across different platforms or different file formats, it does get a little bit into that. And then I get into services, you know, like if you want to, let's say, do hoodies on Merch by Amazon, you want to convert your file sizes. So I go into like file conversion, bulk file conversion, so you can automate that, right? Making your own vectors. That's a question that came up all the time was, well, what if I want to draw a picture using a pencil and a paper, and then I want to put that on a shirt? I'm like, yeah, do it. So draw it on a pencil and paper. Here's like 3 different ways that you can capture that, turn it into a vector, and then you can use it across all of your designs, right? So that's kind of the approach I went. Each chapter gets increasingly more complex. Chapter 4 gets into like the actual platforms. And like I said, there's more than 35 in chapter 4 alone. And then each one has details about each of the pods. And then in chapter, you know, and I go into things like how much traffic goes to the site based on its Alexa web ranking. You notice that on all of the pods. And also some tips and things that people can do to increase the conversions at certain pods. There's things you can do on some of the print-on-demand platforms that will get you more traffic than if you didn't do them. And then chapter 5 is marketing. So I get into multiple, well, there's some theory on marketing as well, right? So I don't know if you got to that part yet.
Yeah, I did read through that a bit. Yeah, it's really cool that there's just, this book is so packed from beginning to end. There are people who pay thousands of dollars for courses that this book teaches you. It's amazing how much you've squeezed into this book. And what is it? The price is like it's $57.
Yeah, it's $57. So originally when Merch by Amazon, when I was writing the book, I wanted to make it so that you had to get less than 10 shirts. So at the time that I wrote it, if you could sell 8 shirts, it would pay for the book and you'd have some money left over just from the royalties on Merch by Amazon. Now, Merch by Amazon pricing has changed, and I didn't want to increase the price of the book.
Right,
so now if you sell a shirt on Merch by Amazon at $19.99, you have to sell at least 11 shirts in order to cover the book.
But here's good.
Here's how people sell 11 shirts.
Absolutely, and this book, the tips and all the strategy in this book will definitely get you out of tier 10. So I mean, it pays for itself. You get yourself out of tier 10, which is your that first hurdle you got to get over. It's a little investment in yourself. It's got all the stuff you need to get started and market, and it's just an amazing book. I can't say enough good things about it.
Yeah. So I mean, there's 11 chapters. Chapter 5, again, it's on marketing. So it goes through individual platforms. So I go through social media platforms, and I try to put information that's applicable for anybody at any level. So there's tips on how to do marketing, either paid, like if you want to do paid marketing, it shows you how to do that, and certain services that you can use to do that. But it also gives you a lot of tips on free marketing as well. You notice that. Like in the Facebook section, there's more than 10 different ways, individually different ways that I show you on how to do marketing for free using just Facebook, right? And then the same thing for Instagram. I've got paid and free marketing, things that people can do to promote their own designs across the platform. It goes through Pinterest, goes through Twitter. I cover a little bit on YouTube, Google, and others. But the marketing chapter has that. And then it also goes into the integrations, right? And like automation. I don't know if you got to the automation part.
I did read through that just because I'm super interested in that right now myself. One of my goals this kind of first quarter is to actually hire a VA to do some of the uploading that I just want to do. I don't have the time to do on the other pods. Yeah. I spend most of my time on Merch, a little bit on Redbubble, and I just started getting into Gear Bubble and wanted to make that connection with them and the other pods as well. And I just, it's a time constraint, right? I want to do it all, but I can't. So the integrations are super interesting to me. I know there's a couple that are coming out that are kind of been secretly talked about in the community. But yes, I'm hopeful that those will come soon. But in the meantime, I'm still doing some. So I'm looking for a VA to help me out on the uploading and just the day-to-day kind of getting stuff done. Right, I'm a designer by trade, so I spend sometimes too much time on my designs, but so it's like, I'll spend a week designing and I won't upload anything for a whole week, and then I'll just have to press through getting those up and making kind of slight iterations. I'll do a lot of scaling on those. Once I've done the initial design, as I'm uploading, I'll say, okay, this one can scale out, and I'll just do a bunch of variations on that, and then just kind of get off to the races.
Yeah. I noticed so chapter 7 is all about outsourcing. And then the nice thing that I tried to make it really clear in the book, you can outsource 100% of the business or any part of it, right? So if you're a designer and you love to design, you could spend all your time just designing and, pay somebody else to upload it or use software to upload it with, right? Then, if you like to just do keyword research, if that's your thing, you can do that. You can outsource the design. You can outsource the uploading. You can outsource the actual keyword research. So you'll notice there's multiple options for each stage of the business that you can automate. All of that's in chapter 7. It's 100% of all the stages you can do. If somebody wanted to, they could literally outsource 100% of it. They could outsource, the keyword research, the design, the uploading, managing the whole thing, and they could literally just step away and take a break for a long time if they wanted to, depending on how they set it up.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of, you probably notice there's a lot of links to videos explaining exactly how to do things. So there's dozens of videos. I didn't count all the videos, but there's over 300 links in the book that link to more information. You'll notice that a lot. It'll say more information link here.
Right.
There's links to stuff. And a lot of that is just because if I had put all of that information in the book, it would be probably over 1,000 pages long, right?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So I have a kind of a weird question. Are you like a superhuman being? How do you get this all done? Do you not require sleep? Because I struggle with just the stuff that I'm doing just to get my initial, merch going, so it's
so originally when I wrote the first edition of the book, I was working full time at the same time. So I was working full time, and then also I was uploading the things to Merch by Amazon and other pods and writing the book at the same time. But in August, so the work that I was doing is contract work for the federal government. So I can't really say exactly what I was doing there, but I was working for the federal government doing some things for them, mostly in analytics and analysis and software for the government. But anyways, so in August, I talked to Tara and I said, you know what, I'm going to stop taking on new contracts and just do this full time. So now that I'm doing it full time, I have a lot more time, which is helpful. So what I try and do is I have a layout of my day. So at certain times in the day, I'll be doing research and then I'll send that to my design team. And I do outsource most of my design right now. I use Design Pickle for that. And I've been using them for over a year. So I started outsourcing with them in 2016, 2017, 2018. So more than a year. And I've actually prepaid for them until 2019. So I really like the work they're doing for me. And so I'll send the design work to them. So that frees up a bunch of my time. And then when I get things back, I have a system that I go through. So I've got a spreadsheet that's also included for free with the book. When you get it through Gumroad, there's files that are included, right? So I include the actual spreadsheet that I used for the first 10 of the pods that I was using at the time.
Nice.
And so I'll have a file system where I keep track of files that I get back from my designer. And then I'll just upload them onto Merch by Amazon typically first, because that tends to get the most sales in terms of sales per design loaded. And then I'll go through to Redbubble and I'll go through the other print-on-demand platforms like Zazzle, Cafe Press, Spreadshirt, a whole bunch of them that I'm using. And what I'll do is I'll upload them based on how much time I have available. So I don't list 100% of all my designs on all of the pods that I'm on. At the moment, I'm currently, personally, I've got designs listed and making sales on 21 pods. So if I were to list all of my designs on all of the pods, it would take more time. For that, I would need to either use more software solutions or outsource more for the uploading part.
Right.
So I do list some of my designs across multiple pods. So the 21 of them I have designs live and selling.
Nice.
I don't know if that answers your question. And then,
yeah, absolutely. So do you find that when you're uploading to multiple pods, are you kind of tailoring the content to the pod? Like, I know some pods, like Redbubble, for instance, are a little bit more artsy. Like the straight text designs don't really sell well there. Where some of those on merch, I mean, I have some that are just a couple words on a shirt, and they sell like daily on merch. It's just amazing. One of my best selling shirts, I was like, at the end of the day, I was so tired, I just said some random thought in my head on a shirt, and I just put it up to merch, and it made a sale like the next day.
I love just randomly throwing stuff up on different pods once in a while. But to answer your question, so the designs that I get my designer to make, I'll use them across any of the pods, so they're applicable to any of them. Sometimes I'll mix it up a bit, and I'll just do like a design only or text only.
Right.
But most of the time I use text and design, similar to like the shirt you're wearing, it's got text and design on it.
Right.
And then sometimes I'll do patterns, right? So I'll get shapes or colors or different things that can be patterned, right, for the all-over shirts. A lot of the print-on-demand platforms that I'm using, they have all-over or dye sublimation.
Right,
and
right.
So to the edge or off the edge, and you can kind of zoom in and out as much as you want. So, for example, when I upload to Society 6, I'll typically use just my pattern designs. I find that I just like selling them on Society 6 because of some of their sublimation.
Right.
If I have a really, really high-quality pattern or like an image that repeats itself and it can be used as a pattern, I'll use the Rajon mobile app. Right. So whether I'm on my phone and I take a picture of something and then I can just upload that straight into Rajon, their mobile app is amazing. I've got links. I should mention, like, all of the pods that have mobile apps, I've got links to them in the book as well. So you can see some of them have seller side apps, some of them are buyer side. And then they also typically cover both Apple and Android in terms of the operating system on your phones and tablets as well. But so for patterns, I'll upload to certain pods. For text-only stuff, I use that across pretty much all of them, even the ones that are heavy into design. Some of them that I have designs, I'll upload to certain ones. And then sometimes if I make a design or if I have a design that I think would look particularly well on an item that's only available on certain pods, then I'll only upload to those pods. So for example, Zazzle has an amazing array of different things. They have something like 360 some odd things you can do through Create Your Own. Right. But through their Maker network, which is also talked about in the book a bit, and not a lot of people know about the Zazzle Maker system, but through Maker, you can do over 1,400 different items, right? So everything from like custom whiskey glasses for weddings, right? Or like people always hear about skateboards and shower curtains and stuff like that, but you can get into like baby soothers and like picture frames and, dog tags. Christmas ornaments is kind of a neat one, right?
That's cool.
Yeah, so sometimes I'll have a design that matches a specific type of item, right? And then other times the designs will just be general. So my general ones I put across most of the pods.
Very cool. So that's really cool, the Maker Network. I did not know about that. It's something I'm definitely going to look into, especially when you have those weird kind of niche-y kind of items that you're surprised how well they do sell, especially when they get around things like Christmas and the baby soothers and stuff like that.
Yeah, I should say chapter 8 has Q&A. And it starts out with just a lot of questions and answers, but it gets into some really weird stuff. So I think it's in chapter 8 that I talk about the Maker network of Zazzle expanding. So just for anybody who hasn't heard of it, they partner with different people who have their own independent businesses, kind of like Amazon Custom or Amazon Handmade, except it's with Zazzle. And right now they're only operating in the US. The Make network for Zazzle is only American right now, but this year they're going to be launching it international. So that's something that they've talked about, and they haven't started it yet. But I'm looking forward to the day when you can do you can personalize anything that makers worldwide can make, because we know people make a lot of stuff around the world, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and then and there's it's amazingly unlimited once you get to the worldwide market, for sure.
Yeah.
Because there's specific niches for different countries that you might not, as being in the US or in Canada, you might not even think about. and then all of a sudden, you have another revenue stream just somewhere around the world.
Yeah, I'll give you a good example. So in Japan, I don't know, I put a bit of a bio at the back, but a lot of people don't know this. I lived in Japan for a short time in Tokyo, and umbrellas is a big thing there because it rains a lot in the wet season. And I imagine it's like that for other countries. I know I lived in South Korea and China as well. When I lived there, the raining season, it's very wet, like for days, right? So in Japan, umbrellas are popular, but there's certain pods that I mentioned in the book that can make custom umbrellas. So if you want to target a geography of the world, that's another kind of thing that I talk about in the book, right? So I talk about most of the pods will ship internationally, but sometimes if you can find a niche or an item that people will use a lot in a certain area, you can target your design to those people groups, right? Either through the language you use in the listing or the design itself, or you can have a text-based design. It doesn't have to be English, right? You can do it in Japanese or Chinese or Korean or Thai or Cambodian or, Hindi, right? There's tons of languages around the world, and you can target your text-based designs across them. So I even talk about language translation services that are available in the book. I don't know if you've seen that part or not.
I didn't yet, no.
Yeah, Teespring, if you have more than 100 sales on Teespring, then you get access to additional services on that platform. So one of them is free language translation, and they'll translate into multiple languages for free through that service. And I mentioned, I have a whole section just within the Teespring section, which is in chapter 4 with the different pods. There's a whole section talking about all these different services that they offer that most people don't know about. But think about this. If you send a design that's text-based to Teespring translation services, they translate it for you and send it back. You can then use that across multiple pods, including Teespring, of course, but you want to use it on other pods because they all ship worldwide, right? Except for Merch by Amazon and Fanprint, just as Canada and US.
Yeah. It's that global market is really, there's going to be a lot of money to be made there once. I mean, I've kind of been super focused on merch, so I've been like in the US, only shipping to the US. So it's definitely, once I can get myself spread out onto more pods, then I'll start thinking about the global market. But
yeah, and the US is a big market, right? So there's nothing wrong with, you can't just focus on one place, right?
Yeah, sure.
But the way I look at it is the US has a lot of buyers, and it's a consumption society, so they buy a lot, each person, which is great. However, they also have a lot of competition, right? So when you're just focusing only on the US, now you're dealing with everybody that's on Merch by Amazon, everybody that's on all the other pods. Typically, they're focusing on Canadian audience, or not Canadian, English audiences, right? So US, Canada, Australia, the UK. These are big buying places where people shop a lot, right? But there's a lot of shopping happening elsewhere. So in part of the book, I talk about in the Boosted network, they're expanding out to Asia. I don't want to give away too much information on the podcast, but I want, I like to give out a little bit on each interview that I do. So if I give away too much, you stop me, okay?
Okay.
But on the Boosted network, they're now, they've announced they're partnering with multiple platforms abroad. So JD.com, for example, I don't know if you've heard of JD.
No, I haven't.
Okay, so JD is kind of like a large marketplace that operates in China. And the nice thing about it is a publicly traded company, so you can go in and see how much revenues they're making. You can actually see the numbers. And I looked it up because I was like, okay, well, I've never heard of this platform either, right? I wanted to look it up. I used to be a stockbroker as well, so I'm always interested in looking at publicly traded companies. And JD has quarterly revenues of more than $15 billion per quarter.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah. But people love Etsy, right? And Etsy makes a lot of sales, and you get to see how many sales Etsy makes. But like, to give you for perspective, Etsy is the number 7th largest e-commerce retailer in the US, right? They just announced this in a video they put out with their CEO. They're really excited about it. Q4 2017, biggest selling quarter. They sold over $1 billion, right? One and then B with the B, billion.
Yeah.
Which is a lot.
That's a lot.
But JD, which operates in China, right? Yeah. They're selling 15 times as much as Etsy every quarter.
Yeah. Well, I know like Alibaba also has crazy numbers like that, and they have that one day. I can't remember what they call it over there.
Singles Day.
Singles Day, yeah, where they just like blow it out the water, and their numbers are like the annual revenue of Apple or something like that. It's like in one day. It's like insane.
It's pretty amazing, yeah. So another interesting thing, like people love Amazon and people are familiar with it, and your audience, obviously, they're probably on Merch by Amazon and they use Amazon, and probably a lot of them are in the U.S., but people don't often think about this. Alibaba's revenues worldwide are more than Amazon's revenues worldwide.
Oh, yeah.
They sell more stuff.
Yep.
Right? It's a larger company in terms of sales platform than Amazon. Mm-hmm. And Amazon's really big. In the US, of course, it's number one. But worldwide, it isn't.
Yeah.
Right? And it's expanding. Like, it's in many marketplaces. They do sales in Europe and, of course, Japan. They opened up Amazon India and China and Australia, and Amazon Brazil. They've expanded now as well, so they have more physical items now, which they didn't have before. But Alibaba still outsells Amazon in terms of worldwide revenue, which is, it's just mind-blowing, right?
It is mind-blowing. It totally is. And it just shows to show you, and there's so many people in Asia as a whole, and compared to the U.S. I mean, we're kind of in our bubble here, across both oceans on both sides.
Yeah.
So we have that kind of U.S. us mindset. So we're not really thinking globally.
Yeah, and the U.S. again, don't get me wrong, the U.S. is a huge market, right?
Yeah, no, they are
hundreds of billions of dollars in sales across all the different sites, right? But worldwide, it's a lot larger. There's a lot more people.
Small slice of the pie, just a small slice of the pie for sure.
And a lot of people will give me pushback. They'll be like, okay, that's fine. There's a lot of people elsewhere, but Americans buy a lot. We have more money. We shop more, right? And I'm like, well, that may be the case on a per capita basis, but when you look at the actual total revenues converted to US dollars, actually people sell a lot more internationally than they do in the US, which is mind-blowing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. Well, very cool. I don't have many more questions for you. I don't know about the book. I don't want you to get, reveal too much. People go out, get the book. It's totally worth the $57. I will put a link in the show notes of the podcast on how to get it. Also, if you don't know about Jacob's Facebook group, which he just started just recently, right? When did you get that guy going?
The Facebook group's about 2 years old.
Oh, it is.
There's more than one, yeah. So I've got Merch by Amazon top sellers for newbies and pros.
Right.
So that's one of my newer groups, and it's I think it's approaching 4,000 members now.
Yeah,
so
that one's on fire. And the content that you post in there every day is just awesome. By the way, I really enjoy the posts coming in through that group for sure.
Yeah, what I try and do with the Facebook group, which again is Merch by Amazon top sellers for newbies and pros. If you just type in top sellers into Facebook, it'll come up. I try to post at least a minimum of one really useful post for print on demand per day. And typically it's content that's free. Often I'll reference something that maybe people could get afterwards, after the free content. But almost every single post that I try to put in something that you can actually take action on and you can actually start doing it, right? So whether it's a print-on-demand platform that you can be selling on, I'll have information about it. I'll have things like mock-ups that you can use for marketing. Sometimes I'll put information about niches or like niche groups or suggestions or things that are coming up in the calendar, how to design things, videos on design. I try and keep the group like very fresh with new content every day.
It's very good content. I recommend go checking it out. I mean, you got the Facebook group, the book. You're working on 21 pods right now.
Yeah.
I think, you're prolific at everything you do. It's like Jacob Topping, the prolific topping.
Well, I'm doing it full time now, right? So if I don't show results, my wife's like, okay, Jacob, what's up?
Right. Hey, I'm almost full time. I'm like 75, 80% full time. So I'm put to shame by by what you have accomplished for sure. So thanks for taking the time out to talk to me and to the audience, and hopefully
yeah, absolutely. It was a blast to be on. I should mention as well, I only heard about the podcast in the last few months, right? So in the previous version of the book, it wasn't there on it. I have a whole list of podcasts, right? But it's in the current version. I've got the podcast with your name and links to the podcast, awesome. Right? So hopefully more people will go and listen to your podcast. I went through a number of episodes. I listened to them, and they're fantastic, right?
Thank you, thank you.
So I really appreciate having you here.
You really know how complete this book is by being that just the podcast is in there. You know, it's a complete book.
Yeah, and it was in there before we talked about me being on the podcast, right?
Yes, it was.
we only started talking when, what was it? After the Super Bowl T-shirt contest, right?
With the Jersey merch team, yeah. So that was a wild ride for me, for sure.
My wife's wearing your shirt.
Oh, that's awesome.
I sent you a picture yesterday of her. That was her in the kitchen.
That was awesome. Yeah.
Has that? I don't know if we want to talk about this off the podcast.
Yeah,
how's that going?
So that was an amazing ride. I won the Super Bowl thing. We got our my shirt posted in the group. I got like 80 something sales within the first 2 days. Those were the people who kind of committed to, buying the shirt. And then it kind of, every day I was getting one or two, but then like the week and a half before St. Patrick's Day, it just took off. That shirt went down to, I think, a BSR of like in the teens somewhere. And I was making at one day I was like 20 sales a day on that shirt.
So it was in the top 100 for its category?
Yeah. It was on the first page for St. Patrick's Day at one point.
Wow.
Which is like the king keyword. And it's completely dried up now, which I'm actually have a 0 day today, which is kind of like a bummer. Yesterday I had 18 sales, which was nice.
Yeah.
But I haven't had one ka-ching come in today. So it's been an up and down since St. Patrick's Day this weekend. I also did really well around the Pi Day stuff last week. I had 2 shirts that made it to the top first page on Pi Day shirt for the keyword, which is awesome.
And what do you think the next trend is going to be that sells well in the calendar?
As far as I put a little effort into Easter. I've sold 2 Easter shirts, but I think about Easter's not the kind of people get dressed up for Easter. They go to church or whatnot if you're really celebrating Easter, and so they're not going to be wearing my merch, funny merch shirt. Although it is on April Fool's Day this year, so I have a couple kind of mashups that are not selling.
Yeah. Did you do any Good Friday shirts or around the holiday?
I didn't get into that around the holiday. Earth Day is coming up. I don't know if that's a big one. I have a few Earth Day shirts up.
Last year it was.
It was? Okay.
Yeah. The Earth Day, there was March for Science and Earth Day were very similar. So last year it sold really well. Something that I did over the course of last year was actually, I'm going to talk to you about this off the pod because I don't really want to.
Okay, sounds good.
But I'll tell you. Remind me to tell you about that because I was doing something all of last year and it's like paying off big time right now. Awesome.
Yeah. So let's wrap up this interview and thanks for being on and go get the book it's totally worth it. $57. You will make your money back for sure.
Yeah, again, the name of it's Merch and the World of Print on Demand, and it talks about merch in the world of print on demand.
Yeah, and I'll have some links to it in the show notes, as well as links to the Facebook group.
Sweet. Thanks, Alf.
Thanks, Jacob.